This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 93.
Fortunately, I wasn't losing any ground, but I wasn't gaining either. But none of the books actually taught me how to trade.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host. He challenges you to leave him a comment on YouTube. He will respond. Clay Trader.
That is right. Do it right now. But it's got to be like a real comment. Don't go and troll or throw something stupid. But yeah, I take great pride in that. If you leave a comment on any YouTube video or really anything across social media, I will reply. And I will do my best to reply within 24 hours, unless it's like a holiday or a weekend. But that's one of those areas where I try to separate myself from a lot of the other people out there. Is I will interact with you. I will, and it is me. Unless you go through the website, and if you use the chat box, it could be Ches or it could be IT Nate or myself. So I can't make that promise. But as far as YouTube is concerned, or Facebook or Twitter, yeah, that is me, and I will definitely reply. Especially on YouTube, I take great pride in replying to the YouTube comments. And sometimes it kind of gets me in trouble because it's just trolls and then I waste my time with them. So sometimes I do just delete the trolls because all right, I'm not going to let my time just get, sucked away with just a flat out troll. But if you have something constructive to say, or if you just want to put this challenge to the test, then yeah, do it and I will reply. And that's kind of just our motto around here in the chat box. We're pretty fast at getting back to people. And Ches, I know you take great pride in that too, in terms of being prompt and getting back to people when they have a question or what have you.
And I mean from anywhere in the world. The only time I'm really not chatting with other traders or people interested in trading is when I'm sleeping. So other than that, I mean, you can always expect to get me in that chat box. And honestly, Clay, the reason why I even joined this community many years ago is because I sent you an email and you had responded to me in like 12 minutes. And I was super impressed by that. So honestly, you just keep up that good work. And yeah, we challenge you guys. Leave some comments and Clay will be sure to get back to you.
Disclaimer though, I do not promise to get back to you within 12 minutes. That's
this was during market hours. This was kind of relatively, but that's okay. But you did respond to me in a relatively fast
24 hours, like I said, I will easily get back to you within 24 hours. Again, assuming it's not some sort of holiday or the weekend. Heck, depending on a Saturday, I might still get back to you. So, but anyways, yeah, the challenge is out there and put me to the test. I realize it's one thing to say, oh, we really will communicate. You're interactive. But I'm willing to walk the walk, so I challenge you for that. So today we're talking with Ward Warren. For you members of the chat room, doesn't really use the chat room in the sense of participate. He's definitely in a very big plan, a very big structure of kind of no longer drifting, but more so heading towards an objective. That'll make more sense as we get into the interview. But Ches, this is a man with a plan. Would you agree with that statement?
A man with a plan it sums it up perfectly, and we'll go into that in the podcast. But yes, this should be a shining example for people who are looking to kind of turn themselves around in a multitude of ways. But obviously, we'll get into that in the podcast.
And he also sent Ches and I both off on a couple of rants. So if you're a fan of the Ches Clay rants, then there's definitely a couple of those in here for you. So without further ado, let's listen to Ward and hear about his story. Well, hey Ward, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed these podcasts, and I'm surprised that I'm here at this point, but I'm ready to go.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you and I are old buddies. I mean, for you listeners out there, Ward was at our Nashville meet and greet. So I've met Ward in person. We've chatted stocks, chatted kind of his journey. So I can't sit here and say that I'm totally blind going in because I do know a little bit about Ward because of the meet and greet. But I'll do my best to not steer the conversation in any direction and just let Ward kind of tell it the way he wants to tell it. But before I forget, did you have fun in Nashville, Ward?
I did. It turned out to be a really good experience for me.
Would you recommend it to other people in the community when we do these meet and greets? Is it worth something to at least consider going to?
It is. I met some really good people, and the one thing that I was trying to accomplish was just to make some allegiances, some friendships. And what I came away with was the idea that I'm not alone.
And that's, yeah, well said, because Ches, I mean, that's really it at the end of the day. That's kind of the point of this podcast, right? Ches, is, you're not alone in whatever you may be going through. There's other people that have probably been through it.
I mean, that's the point of the podcast, the point of the community. And that's, trading is generally, a lonely business. And, prior to the internet, people who traded just kind of sat at home and didn't have, people to talk with. So yes, you're definitely not alone. And that's the beauty of the community.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm sure Nashville may come up a few more times, but I guess let's just get right into it. So Ward, what got you interested in the markets? Where did you first hear about them? And, then what kind of led you to want to get a little bit more involved with them?
Well, back in 1998, I came across, and I don't even remember how I got my hands on it, but it was a little brochure. And Ches, you'll know about this guy, Ken Roberts. He's a guy that sold training in the futures market, trading commodities in the futures market.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of him.
Yeah, and so that got my attention, and I bought a few books on trading. But I was never in a position financially to do anything with it. And so, but that fire had been lit, and I got married. Let's see. Well, I've been married twice, but I got married to my present wife back in 2008. And, all my retirement money came from the government, but she had her retirement money in a lump sum. And so I thought, hey, maybe now I can finally, learn how to do this trading thing. And I was so naive. She had this money in a mutual fund that had not grown. And, I was so clueless. I didn't realize that we had just gone through a huge correction in 2008 and 2009. And I'd looked at this money that had been sitting there for years and it had not grown. I thought, well, I can do a better job than this.
I need to cut you off there real quick. Did I hear and understand it properly that you were not aware that the market had went through a correction in 2008 and 2009?
I think I had heard about the market correction, but I was not involved in the markets at all. And so when I thought about starting to trade this money, it didn't even occur to me that the reason that it hadn't grown is because of the market correction.
Okay,
That's how naive I was.
Okay, yeah. So when you say, a little context here for the listeners, because maybe you're newer and don't have any idea, and Ches, you can chime in on this too, but 2008, 2009, I mean, that was kind of like a big deal, right, Ches? That was...
I guess it was a little deal, but yes, it was kind of a huge deal. And I was actually in college at that time in like a college economics course, and my teacher would just go nuts every single week. I can't believe they bailed this out. I can't believe they didn't bail this out, and this is going to have implications forever. So I knew about it strictly because of that. Honestly, I wasn't, in the market to buy any real estate or anything like that, but my dad was, well aware of it. But honestly, I guess I can see that if you're not, if you don't follow the news religiously or anything like that, I can understand how, most people's way of life didn't have to change unless you were underwater or something like that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to so Ward is not exaggerating at all when he says he was naive. I mean, to not I think, 2000, something was going on in 2000. I mean, the world was essentially melting down then. And, that's where the Great Recession, so not quite the Great Depression like the 1930s, but 2008 started what was known as the Great Recession, which is kind of a historic event. So sorry to cut you off, Ward, but I just want to set context of you were not lying. You were definitely not exaggerating when you said that you were naive. So, so I guess just continue on. But wow, no kidding. You were pretty clueless at that point in time in regards to everything.
Very clueless. And so my wife agreed to let me try my hand at investing this money myself. And so I initially, I bought a book on trading, and the one takeaway from this book that kept me out of trouble was don't lose money. So
that's generally a good takeaway that most people try to get across in trading books. That's good. So now I think you mentioned. So were you going to try your hand at futures? Was that what you were saying?
No. I was just gonna stay in. Actually, I started off in some mutual funds. And that didn't really, I was so naive and so, ignorant, I didn't even know how to give it time to work. And so I started trading in stocks, and I remember I looked for stocks that were trending up smoothly, that weren't that volatile. And so I started I had 14 positions early on in 2012, and I had kept a trading diary, and that was a valuable tool because it didn't take me long to realize, that everybody's great when there's a bull market going on.
It's amazing how you just kind of put anything on and then you look the next day, holy moly, it's up again and it's up again and it's up again. So yeah, it's honestly, it has made a lot of people think they're a lot better than they are. And then the minute there's a pullback and the minute there's any kind of downtrend at all, these people generally get smoked because they have no concept of kind of risk management. So you're in this bull market, you're finding things that are smoothing up, trending up nicely, and that's totally fine. We love trend trading. If you can catch a good wave and you know how to manage your risks, then you can definitely make a good amount of money in the market. But obviously, you got all these positions on now, and let's go from there. How's it go? Did you get are you living on an island now? Are you rich? You got your own helicopter?
Working on it. Not yet. So. Some trades I would gain, some trades I would lose, and then I look back over my trading diary, which included the chart. I'd ask myself, why did I even enter this trade, or why did I exit here? I realized I did not know what I was doing.
Now, did you read these books like cover to cover?
Yes.
Okay.
I started trading in 2012, in January of 2012. And for the first 18 months, I surprised myself. I read 40 books in the first 18 months.
40, that's a lot of books. But yet, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth, even after those 40 books, you still didn't really feel like you knew what you were doing. Is that kind of what you're saying here?
No, I did not. Because, my account balance kind of like spelled it out. It's in black and white. I'm not making any progress. Fortunately, I wasn't losing any ground, but I wasn't gaining either. And so after about 18 months, a little bit discouraged, I took a break. And with all those books that I read, they were great on helping me understand, the psychology and, but none of the books actually taught me how to trade.
I mean, that just sums it perfectly. Books are very good, and I've read books. There's books out there, and for you longtime listeners, you've heard this before. I mean, truly, if trading was as easy as going to the local library and spending, 50 cents in late fees, then the success rate would be higher than 10%. So, I mean, that's where just a little bit of common sense with math goes a long way. And Warren, thank you very much for just being an open book about this, no pun intended. But I mean, here is a guy that reads 40 books, and yet, yeah, he understands psychology, he understands overarching themes, but as far as how to trade, there's just more to it that, I would contest a book just can't really convey. And that just, I think that summarizes it perfectly. Now, I want to you made a comment, you would win some and you would lose some. So when you would lose some, how did you define a loss? I mean, what ultimately said, I'm losing, I need to get out? I mean, what was your risk management at that point in time? And conversely, what determined it was a win? Did it just have to go up a certain percentage? But I mean, I'm always curious at the, early on stage, how did you know when it was officially a loss, or how did you know when it was officially, a winning trade?
Well, I was very disciplined about putting a stop in.
Okay, nice. So you're using stops from the get-go. Very nice.
There were a couple occasions, there's one author that said that, he used mental stops or he didn't put stops in. And there was a couple trades where I didn't have stops in, and one I got burned pretty good. But for the most part, I was very disciplined about putting a stop in, but there was no risk reward analysis to figure out, where to get in, where to get out. There's many trades where I had a nice profit only to see it disappear because I just hung with it too long.
You make one, you lose one, and that's just like you said. You make no ground in that way, and assuming you got a 50%, pretty much a coin flip if you're right or you're wrong. I can totally see how that kind of happens. But I want to thank you first off for not buying into the notion that, oh, only use mental stops because those market makers, they're going to come find you and they're going to move the stock price, 3%, 2% just to kind of knock your one order out. So thank you for not buying into that. And it's really great to hear that, you at least were putting in stops from the get-go, because that's a very, very key thing that most people don't do. A lot of people, as we've all seen in the past, once they're in a stock, it can go down indefinitely and they've now become investors. So at least you never intended to kind of become an investor like that. And that's great to hear. So,
but let me throw in here. But just because you use a stop loss, don't get Ches and I wrong. That's fantastic. But Ches, correct me if I'm wrong. There is more to it than just a stop loss, right? Just because you're using a stop loss again, that's fantastic. But there's more to becoming a successful trader and a profitable trader over time than just putting in a stop loss. I mean,
are you telling listeners that they have to put their stop at a logical place? Is that kind of an important part of placing a stop? You can't just place it a penny under your order and then just stopped out. Oh, well, I got stopped out with 99% of my trades. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, that's point being, there's more to it than just, I got a stop loss in. Would you agree with that, Ward? Because, I mean, hey, you were using a stop loss, but it sounds like you quickly figured, well, it seems to be a little bit more to it than just putting in a stop loss.
Well, I mean, I know that now. Thanks to I mean, every people got to know I'm in the university. I'm working my way through it, and I'm learning these things, and things are starting to make sense. But I would just have in the beginning, my stop loss was arbitrary. It made no sense.
Perfectly said. So back to Chez's point, was it logical? Was it illogical? Yeah, I mean, it was just it just didn't. It was just there for the sake of, hey, some books that I need to have a stop loss.
Yes.
And just like kind of Clay said before, even at that point, it's totally better than nothing, but it takes a lot more to kind of learn where to logically place it and, where to logically enter. Because I know those are two big things that a lot of people have problems with. And obviously you touch on another big one is that, you watch big wins, pretty much dwindle back down to nothing or even a small loss. And that's totally a normal thing, especially as a new trader. So you've gone through 40 books, which is totally amazing. But we've now just, determined that no matter how many books you read, in the end, ultimately, you got to kind of, it's not going to make you the most successful. And by no means are we saying books are bad. We've all read books generally. They all have some value in them. We're not going to ever argue with that. But you said you take a break after this 18 months. Now, what is your kind of game plan for how you're going to proceed? Are you going to go seek mentorship? Are you going to go, get a job at a trading desk? What is it? What does your future look like to you at this point after you've taken a break because you're not making too much ground?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a trader because it kept pulling me back. I took a break for a while, for about 6 months, and then I'm scouring the internet, all the free education stuff, looking for ideas or strategies. And so then I started trying a new strategy. It was American Association of Individual Investors, AAII, and that didn't work. And now, of course, I don't want to criticize them. It's probably me, but that didn't work. And so then I would try a different strategy, and that wouldn't work. And so I'm going through this cycle now where I'd try something, it wouldn't work, and so I'd take a break for a while, discouraged. And so this went on for about 4 years.
Wow, that's a long time for this cycle to unfold.
So, and then I realized, so back in October, November, just about a year ago, and I don't even know how it happened, but I stumbled across iHub. I'd never heard of iHub.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And somewhere on that page, Clay, you turned up.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's not that's a yay. All right, there we go.
So I'm thinking, okay, so I watched a few YouTube videos, and I was impressed. I mean, you would actually, let someone look over your shoulder as you made a trade, some of your videos. And I'm thinking, this might be helpful to actually see how it's done. Not to read a book on the philosophy, but to see how it's done. And so I was intrigued. And then, as I checked out your website, we found out about the chat room. And I couldn't argue with a cup of coffee a week price. I joined the chat room, and I'll admit I've not used it that much, but in watching many of the videos, I realized, it became clear I needed to get an education. And so this is what was intriguing me is, your style of teaching was, there wasn't all the glitter and the hype. It was just, down and dirty, simple. And so I went ahead and bought one of your courses. I bought RVR.
Okay. So actually, I'm just curious. So you needed education. What triggered in your mind? Because if I'm putting myself in your shoes, I would assume that, hey, I've already been educated. I've read 40 books. I'm assuming gone through lots of different, YouTube videos and stuff on the internet. But now all of a sudden you're saying I need to get educated. I mean, was there any sort of distinctive moment in your journey where you transitioned from, the thinking you were educated to now admitting that you weren't educated and needing to get educated? Was there any sort of, like I said, specific thing that happened, or is that just kind of, you think, like a slow little transition that just happened over time? Because that's a pretty big distinction between I'm already educated and then all of a sudden, the light bulb goes off. Oh, I guess I'm not, so I need to get educated.
Well, I knew that there was a problem because I wasn't making any money, and I think the tipping point came when I watched one of the podcasts. It was the one where you interviewed the coach, and he said something in that podcast that just hit like a hammer. And it was the idea thinking that if you had a basketball, that you could go play in the NBA. And I'm thinking,
Coach Dan. Yep.
Coach
great
Dan.
logic.
I still remember that analogy. That was a good one for sure.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, I get it. I've got money and I've read a bunch of books, and now I think I can go and trade in the, in the market, competing against professionals. And so I realized, okay, there's an education problem here. And so
that's a great thing to kind of recognize, because honestly, I think if I was in your shoes specifically, I would have just, like Clay was saying, I'm already educated. I don't need to do any of this stuff. Sure, I'll watch this guy trade, and then maybe I'll pick up. Maybe I'm entering my orders wrong or something. That I would try to defer the blame to something external versus actually taking a hard look at myself and realizing that I have a lot to learn still. And that analogy is just so good from Dan in his podcast that just like you said, just because you own a basketball doesn't mean you can play in the NBA. So I absolutely love that, and it's totally true.
Okay, so I realized I needed education. My first course I made a mistake. It wasn't RVR. It was robotic trading.
Okay.
Took robotic trading. I enjoyed that. And then
let me ask. I'm curious because it sounded like you were using charts from way back when you first got started. Is that correct? Back in '98.
Correct.
So
yes, I was using charts.
Okay. So did that shed anything new for you, or was it just a lot of repetitive stuff? Or did you feel like you actually knew a lot more about charts afterwards?
It helped me understand how to do chart analysis better, because even though I was using charts, I didn't know how to do chart analysis. So
interesting statement. So even though can you explain that a little bit more? So even though you were using charts, you didn't know how to do chart. That's a very fascinating statement, and a lot of people, I think, fall into that category. I don't know about you, Ches, but I'm assuming in the customer support you hear people say, "Oh yeah, I understand charts," or "I use charts," and then the more you pry, you're like, I think Ward just filled in. Well, you may be using charts, but it doesn't sound like you know how to analyze a chart. So Ward, explain that more. What do you mean by using versus analyzing?
Okay, I was using a chart in the most simplistic way. I'd look at the chart, and I was using candlesticks, but I would just look at the chart, and I would get a feel for, like how volatile it was, or if it was trending up. Through some of the books that I'd read, I could kind of spot a stock that was extended or hitting a climax peak, and I knew enough to avoid that. But, I didn't understand support and resistance. I didn't understand, a normal pullback or a consolidation. There was just so much about charting, the analysis end of it, that I didn't understand. which the course has really helped me with.
And, Clay hits on this on a lot of podcasts too, is that what the chart is really telling us is a story. So, like you said, it sounded like, your basic understanding of charts kind of prior to getting, any training or anything like that was more so kind of by a feel. Like you said, I could see kind of a climax top coming, or, but you didn't understand kind of basic things like support and resistance. And by no means am I bashing you for that, because, it's not. Yeah, I have to remember the first time I was looking at charts, I say, oh, it's going up, so now's the time to buy. And then, I was always the guy holding the bag as we, reach the top of something and then go back down. So that's a completely normal thing. But, it sounds to me like you're starting to learn how to read the story. It's not just saying, oh, there's a doji here. Oh, there's a hammer here. There's a lot more to it than just kind of, I know these candlestick patterns. So is that safe to say?
That is safe to say.
Okay, so you get robotic trading, and then what is your next step from there? Because, I know you're, from talking with you in Nashville, you're taking the whole training thing very seriously. So did you get university right after that point, or did you just pick up another course?
No, a few months. This is where, for at least for me, it gets very exciting.
Okay, excellent. I
had, I knew I wanted to buy the university package, needed to come up with a couple $1,000s to do it. Didn't want to go into debt. So after listening to the podcast with Sean, where she took a part-time job, I think as a bartender, in order to help her trading. I don't know if she funded her account or, to help make ends meet so that she could trade, but she took a positive step to make it possible, to make it happen. And so I go, perfect. And I don't know if it was Providence or what it was, but an old boss of mine called me, desperate for me to come back to work. And I thought, well, I can use the money to pay for my education. I go, perfect. So I agreed to go back to work, and I saved every penny I could. And within about 2 months, I paid for the university without going in debt.
Okay, so were you retired, or did you pick up another job when you went back to work? Was that a secondary job, or was that literally like you were retired and then you were going back into the workforce?
I was retired and I went back to work.
Oh my! Do you hear that? All right.
Clay's crying over there.
This is gonna send me off on a tangent. This is why I don't want to hear it, people. You send me your woe is me story about, my account's not big enough. Oh, I can't afford to spend, invest in my education and then build a trading account. Oh, this, all that. Here's a guy that was flat out retired, was literally, good for you, Ward. Thank you for, contributing to the society and retiring and all that good stuff. That's fantastic. But he's flat out retired and he goes back to work. Not necessarily doing something that he absolutely loves, but because he's got a grander goal, and that goal is to save money. And 2 months, he was able to save up the money that he needed to invest in the training package. And that's how it's done. That's why I'm going to speak for Ches because I know he's of the same mindset. We really just don't have any pity for the people that. Now, don't get us wrong. There are unique situations where, okay, that's just really crappy. It is what it is. But 95% of the time, you may think it's crappy, but from an outsider looking in, it's not. It's just you not wanting to work hard enough. It's not you being goal-oriented enough, and it's not you wanting it bad enough. I like Warren's, he said way back when in the interview, it kept pulling him in. It kept pulling him back. That tells me he just has a genuine passion for it. And that's what you need. And that's why we always preach passion. Because if you don't have a true passion, if you're just in it for simply because I want to get rich, well, you're never going to do the things that need to get done. And in Ward's case, freaking going back to work after he retires. So my rant is over, but that is why there will be very little padding. Everything will be okay if you don't want to work. No, work hard. And Ward is just yet another example of it. Ches, do you have anything you want to chime in?
Are you telling me that I should go get maybe a small part-time job at night instead of watching Game of Thrones for 4 hours in a binge?
I don't know.
Are you telling me that would help me if I actually had a legit passion? Because just like you said, it's absolutely amazing to me the fact that Ward has literally worked, up to retirement, and it's in most people's minds, it's like, oh, I'm done. I've put in my time. That's it. And he literally goes back to work. He's had a taste of freedom in retirement, and he goes back to work because that's how strong his passion is. And honestly, that's the passion you need in the market. And, Ward is just a shining example of when you're passionate about something, you will do what you need to do, and you will figure out a way to kind of make it work. You will not just sit here and make excuses. So I'm tearing up as well.
Yeah, and just so this has nothing to do with, oh, you're just saying all that because you want people to go get another job so they buy one of your courses. Not at all. If there is another course that you have your eye on that you're like, wow, I really like that person's teaching style, I really think they can help me out. But no, go work hard and go get that person's course. Don't let the little stupid excuse voices if you want it bad enough, whether it's my courses or somebody else's, that's besides the point. But just kick these excuses to the curb, or you sent us off on a major tangent. So anyways, that's awesome. You get back into the workforce. You save up money in 2 months. Well done. You invest in the university. Let's pick it up from there.
This is where a little departure occurs. There's a fellow that goes to my church, wound up becoming friends, and he started to help me understand what had gone wrong with my life. And to me, it's been just a tremendous revelation. Nothing all that spooky, so you guys can relax.
Revelations are a good thing. If you can find, keep on.
I'm sitting here at the edge of my seat. I was like, oh, a little
it.
Departure. I'm going to be like, he blew his account up or something, but okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
And so my friend Rick, he is a student of personal development and knowing how to, set goals and achieve goals. And, through developing a friendship with him, he's helped me. He's also steered me to other men who are great teachers and mentors. In fact, Clay, on one of something you did recently, and I think I sent you an email on this.
You did. Yep, I know exactly what you're referring to right now.
I realized that over the years, for a young guy like you, you don't have all this baggage, for the three of you. But for me, I'm 62, and I realized that there has been an erosion occurring in my life and with my self-esteem and my self-confidence that's been brought about through bad choices, through series of failures, and it's just been this amazing process of decline. Sure, do I think I'm a good person? Yeah, but just a simple thing like being able to set a goal and and steering my life to an objective rather than drifting. So while I'm studying, learning, taking the courses in the university, Rick is also helping me learn how to become a better person, how to not stop drifting through life, but to chart out a course to reach a clear-cut objective. And of course, I have this passion for trading. And so now I've been able to not just, I want to be a good trader, but be able to quantify that, put a time frame on it, to have a goal in the area of trading, and how to learn how to think and discipline my life so that when I look at my goal, I can approach that with anticipation rather than apprehension.
I love the whole concept here that you're conveying of no longer drifting through life, but heading towards an objective, and that's very well said. And I think what I'm witnessing, or what I'm seeing and listening, and then what you are experiencing is, you can be a sweet trader and you could be like the greatest trader ever, but if there's not that other part of life where you still just feel like you're drifting through, all this, that can only take you so far. So I do think that there needs to be, life and trading needs to go hand in hand in terms of, you know what I'm saying, Ches? Am I making sense here?
No, I know it's not just trading is not the be all end all. If you trade well, you're going to be a happy person. And that goes with a lot of things in life, not, when people say money can't buy you happiness, that's totally true. And Ward, I'm assuming you've read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. So, that whole thing.
Wait, how did you know that?
because it's a fantastic book about kind of personal development and kind of setting goals. But the thing is, the main emphasis of it, just to sum it up for any of you, if you haven't read it or listened to it on an audiobook, you
and
definitely
we'll link
should.
it. Is it worthy to be put in the show notes?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely worthy. But the whole thing is just like Ward was saying, you need to quantify your objective, put a time frame on it, write it down, and just kind of map out the route and the steps that are going to go involved in it. Because just doing that alone, even just putting it on paper, the route it's going to take, and by no means are we saying, I want to make $1 million in 1 month. In reality, if that's your goal and you can do it, you can do it. But the thing is, make it realistic, and instead of just like, I just love that quote, I can't wait to put that in the notes, is that instead of approaching life and just your goals with apprehension, you now are looking forward to it. You're excited for the prospect of your future because you're taking steps in the right direction. And personal development is just such a key thing. And I mean, Clay, you really nailed it, is that trading is not life. You have to have this healthy balance, because don't get me wrong, I could sit here and trade Forex, 5 days a week for 24 hours. But is that what my life is? Is that what I want to do with my life? And I'm going to go on another tangent that I don't want to go on. But you just hit on such another ranting topic, Ward. So thank you again. We love when guests bring that out in us.
Yeah. So, this is good. So I don't even keep going. So you're working on personal development. You now have goals and objectives. So, I mean, do you want to add anything else, or where are you at right now? I mean, I don't want to skip.
Add something else.
Okay, please do.
And so, it even got to the point, the erosion had gotten so bad, a year ago, that I'm even thinking maybe I'm not smart enough. And that's how bad it had gotten. I'm entertained. This little demon is speaking to me. Maybe you just don't have what it takes. And I now realize, oh no, I do have what it takes. The training in the university is great. And I listen to the podcasts, to all these people that are using the training and that are achieving success. So I realize the problem's not in the training, not in the training. The problem's me. And so now it's a two-pronged attack. Keep working on my training, as far as trading goes, with the university, make sure that I'm a lifelong student of training, but also at the same time, I need to be working on myself to be a lifelong student of getting better and better and better. And for me right now, you guys can't see it, but I've got my magic notebook and in there are my goals. There's pictures of my goals. There's the plan step by step on what I'm going to do to become an exceptional trader. And, I'm still working on myself, but things are improving rapidly. And, I'm expecting great things out of myself. And I'm expecting trading to be a phenomenal business. And thinking about the business end of trading, I've looked long and hard, and I can't think of a better business model than trading. So it's great.
And so to kind of combine the two forces, it sounds like your personal development is in a strong bullish uptrend. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, it is. Yes, very much so.
There's no wolf candles anywhere or anything like that?
No. In fact, one of the things, one of the quotes from Jim Rohn, he says, use your past as a mentor, not as a club. So
that's
another good one right there.
Yeah,
can't argue with that.
And we certainly believe that. And as technical traders, we're always using the past to manage the unknown. So that's a great quote. So now in Nashville, you kind of mapped out your kind of game plan going forward, which involves paper trading and stuff like that. So could you walk us, all the listeners through kind of what your course of action is, going forward?
Okay. So I'm chomping at the bit to use money. But
we all know that feeling for sure.
Yeah, we've all been there.
So right now, I've got about, by the end of this year, by the end of December, I'll have my training will be complete. I'll work through all the courses. And so in January, I want to start paper trading. And my plan is to paper trade for at least 4 months to build confidence, to hone strategies, and then in April, if things work out the way I hope they do, go live. And then my plan is for the first year of trading, just make good trades, make modest trades. If I can come away with an average of maybe $50 a day, a trading day, I'll be happy with that, because that will give me proof of concept. And here's the beauty of this business. In order to grow it, all you have to do is scale it. I don't have to find customers. I don't have to find markets. I just have to scale it. So that's the plan for the next year and a half.
But Ward, how are you going to spend a third of the year practicing? I mean, wouldn't it be better just to put your whole account on the line? And these are what the evil voices are saying inside of Ward's head. But Ward has a plan.
I hope they don't sound like that.
No, I really
those are not very intimidating voices.
No.
Yeah.
My voice sounds like men.
Yeah, mine. Yeah, we won't go.
Not pre-puberty.
We won't talk about the voices in my head. But yes, the key here is that Ward has a plan. He's jotted it down. He knows what he's looking to do. So speaking of your plan, though,
actually, I got to cut him off because he said something that's never been said before, but it's so true. Trading, you're absolutely right, Ward, is a great business. You don't have to go out and find, well, I guess the only customers you have to find is a ticker symbol or a Forex pair or some sort of option. But besides that, you don't have to be cold calling. You don't have to be knocking on doors. You don't have to be crossing your fingers saying, oh, I hope, somebody calls, or I hope somebody walks through the doors of my storefront. I mean, nothing. You figure out a system, proof of concept, like you said, and then you scale it. But with that being said, that's why you got to start small. And that's why, oh, wow, $10. Oh, wow, $20. Did I hear Ward say he would be happy with $50? $50? That isn't going to buy me any Lamborghini. Well, remember what Ward said. He is building systems. He is establishing a protocol, a strategy that, sure, it's small right now, but there's ways, and it's a very straightforward path to start to scale things. You start to build bigger position size. You start to use more money, and things expand. But that's why you can't go in gung-ho throwing your entire account into something, because, I mean, you have no proof of concept. You have no strategy. So that's actually, isn't that interesting, Ches, from the business perspective? That's true. Us as traders, we don't need to go and find some sort of employee or, customers or anything like that. Our customer is right at our fingertips, and it's just a matter of scaling.
I don't think the overhead could be any lower in any type of business ever. I mean, it's just like you said, it's you versus the market. And we're not saying that makes it the easiest business, because it's not. I'm a firm believer in the hardest thing to do in the market is to make $1. And this totally kind of ties into scaling. If you can make $1, you can eventually turn that into $10. If you can make $10, you can turn that into $100. You can make $100, you can turn that into $1,000. And I understand these are multiples of 10. So I get it. I'm not saying increase your trading size by 10 every time you're scaling up. But the thing is that once you find a way to make $1, you can essentially do that over and over again. And as you get more comfortable and as you get better at it, you can make it larger. So that $50 a day could turn into $100 a day, can turn into $250 a day, and so on and so forth. But the hardest thing is to make that $1. So,
can I disagree with you real quick? I mean, I understand the concept you're saying, but I just feel like kind of trolling you right now. So okay. Are you good with that?
It's because of those voices I made, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. I would disagree that. Now, again, I understand what Ches is saying, and I know he would agree with this, but making $1 is not the hardest part of the market. Hanging on to the dollar after you make it is the hardest part, because blind luck can make you $1. But hanging on to that dollar and growing it, that's where the true strategy, the true skill comes in. Because, like I said, a blind monkey throwing a dart at a dartboard could make $1. But what happens when things don't go right? Can you hang on to the dollar? That's what you.
No, that's exactly what I meant. Ending the day, ending the week, ending the month, not losing what you have gained. Yes, you've nailed that. I did not specify that. So yes, thank you for trolling me, because that's definitely a valid point that I was trying to
You're welcome, Ches. That's what I'm here for. All right, I know you have another question.
Yeah, let me pivot back to the serious part of the podcast here.
Yeah.
So Ward, obviously, like you said, you have this notebook, you have this plan. Now, I am assuming, and I without even asking, I already know this is the case. I want to know specifically in your game plan, in your plans, what are you planning on trading and why? Is it going to be options? Is it going to be Forex pairs? Is it going to be futures? What specifically are you going to be focusing on?
What I want to major on is options. And I say that because I'm ignorant when it comes to Forex. I'm ignorant when it comes to futures. And, these are things that I need to educate myself on the future. But based upon what I know right now, options offer this incredible leverage. And so I want to get smart and skillful in using options.
Now, maybe you don't know this, and that's fine. Do you plan on doing like more so the day trading of options, or do you want to do more of kind of like what Ches does with the swing trading of options, or are you not sure of that quite yet?
I'm not sure of that quite yet. The one thing, and Clay, you mentioned this, and this is what it all comes down to, is being able to accurately predict which way you think the market's going to go. So really, that's what I want to really develop skill at, is being able to, predict, with accuracy which way the market's going to go, and then make the play accordingly.
There you go. Now, I'm going to nitpick just because I guess I'm in the trolling mood, but not necessarily trying to predict where it goes, because nobody can predict anything, but you're trying to put yourself in a position where if you are wrong, all right, whatever, live to fight another day. But if you're right, then you're going to be right in a big way, and it'll wipe away a lot of those times when you are wrong, and, in the long run, things work out in your favor. So is that a fair statement of what you're trying to do? Put yourself in those good risk, like you said way back when, risk versus reward analysis. That's what you're really trying to do, right? Not necessarily predict and say, I have to be right. You just want to put yourself in spots where if you're wrong, hey, welcome to the club, but at least your account's not being blown up. But if you're right, hey, let's see how big this win can turn. Is that fair?
Exactly. I have the odds in my favor, and to quote you, to be minimally wrong or massively right.
There you go. And that's pretty much trading summarized right there. And that's definitely what we're looking to do. So looking at the time, I don't know where the time's gone. But yeah, I mean, do you have anything you want to add? I know that it sounds like you're very structured over there, so I don't want to just cut you off. But I mean, did you need to throw anything else in there before we move to that time machine question?
Just one thing, with people thinking about, trading as a business, I did a little checking. When you look at, entrepreneurship and people that start up businesses, the percentage of people that are successful is really not that high. Depending on, like Forbes says, around 10%. Depending on who you talk to, some will say a little higher. But then when you think about trading, the percentage of people that are successful as traders is, again, depending on who you talk to, is down around 3%. But here was the amazing statistic. This one trader who had compiled data off his trading career said that, but if you can get a mentor to help you learn how to trade, it can put you up in the realm of around 10%. And I'm thinking, well, that's perfect, because that's what this community offers me, is this kind of mentorship. And it puts me right in the ballpark with any other business startup method. It doesn't matter what it is. And considering the advantages of, no liability, no overhead, no customers, no inventory, I'm excited about this business.
And that's just, that really just ties in right to your kind of passion for it. So that's, and I know some of you listeners out there, like, 10%, that's extremely low. I don't know if I should even bother. If you're kind of saying that, it sounds to me, not knowing you at all, that you probably don't have the passion for it, and that Ward understands that, with his time invested, and I'm not just talking about, how much he traded live and that he didn't get anywhere very first and how many books he's read. I'm talking about that he genuinely loves and wants to excel in this business. And because of that, he's developed a plan, and that plan is going to develop him into a successful trader. I have absolutely no doubt about that. And I'm actually a little sad that I wasn't able to kind of come meet you in person, just coincided with me kind of moving across the country again. So, Ward, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this afternoon. We really do appreciate it. But the most important question we have to ask, which Clay usually steals from me, that's okay, we won't talk about his thievery right now, is if I was to lend you my time machine, which is now located in Denver, so we'll figure out a shipping method, What is one piece of advice you would give yourself if you could go back in time?
It's hands down education. My problem is I didn't even know about education and trading. I just started. I thought I could just learn as I went, but it's just education, and then find a mentor. Those two things.
And yeah, it's fascinating though, because when you started, I don't know, it's tricky because, and it's a good example, you probably thought you were getting educated by reading those books. So maybe you would tell yourself, maybe, hey, Ward, there's more to it than just books. Because if I'm putting myself in your shoes, to give you credit, you probably legitimately thought that you were getting educated at that point. So I don't know. I guess from the outside looking in, or did you not feel like you were getting educated way back, at the start?
Well, I thought I was educating myself, and then, it took 18 months later to realize, man, I've read all these books and I still don't know how to trade.
So get educated, but also realize that there's more to it than just reading some books. Is that kind of a fair assessment there?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
and I bring that up just because Ches and I were always dealing with people, in the customer service, and yeah, I got to figure it out. I bought this book and that book and that book, and then I got that one from the library. And it's just, look, I realize that you think that we're just telling you that books don't work because we're selling courses, but there truly is more to trading. And I started with this, I'll end with it. If trading was truly as easy as just getting a book off Amazon or renting a book or checking out a book, whatever it's called, from your library, success rates would be so much higher than what they are if that's all it took. So I don't want to beat that dead horse anymore, but it's a very fascinating concept because 40 books, that's crazy. But Warren, we're going to move into the fun questions now, which you were well aware of before we even started this whole thing. So what is your favorite movie?
Oh, it's a toss-up between two of them, but We Were Soldiers.
Mel Gibson.
Yep.
That's one of my dad's favorite ones from Yeah, that's a good movie for sure. What's the other one?
The Cowboys. John Wayne. It's an older movie.
Keeping it classic. Nothing wrong with that.
So it's a great movie. It's a best movie about, John Wayne in this movie. He realizes that he hadn't done real well as a father, and now he's got a second chance, and he displays great courage. He turns boys into men. Great.
And there's nothing more American than John Wayne, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's America
that's
right
true.
there.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Now, Ward, what about on the food front? What's your favorite meal and dessert?
Oh, it's hard to beat, American cuisine, meat and potatoes. But as far as ethnic food, Mexicans, one of my favorites.
All good choices right there. What about now? Ward, I apologize. I want to say that you're from Ohio or Pennsylvania. Is that true?
Oh, no.
Virginia. You're from Virginia.
I'm living in Virginia, but I'm from Oregon.
Okay, but you're living in Virginia right now, is what? Because I remember
good
talking
recovery,
to
Clay. Good recovery.
Oh man, Virginia. I knew better. All right, so you're from Oregon. You live in Virginia. But on that note, is there any place you would like to travel at some point and visit?
I would love to go to Iceland. I would love to tour the island of Iceland. This is rugged volcanic beauty. Love to go there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and places where there's big mountains. If I could hike through the mountains for days, that's.
Ches lives right next to some big mountains, don't you?
I do. I can see them on my window right now. So anytime you're down in the Colorado area, you be sure to let me know. But yeah, I would love to also. I'm very similar to you. Those kind of large, vast landscapes of just just pretty much just beautiful terrain and earth and stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I got to do a little bit of traveling myself at some point. Now, Ward, what are 3 words you believe should be associated with successful trading?
Discipline, desire, and resilience.
I like that, especially the desire one, because that harpens back to the whole passionate thing that Ches and I we're talking about. So yeah, that's good stuff there. And resilience, without question, is certainly needed. So Ward, would you ever come back and do this again? Because it sounds like we're definitely going to need to do an update with you at some point.
I would look forward to it very much.
Excellent. Well, I don't know when, but we'll definitely have to plan on it because I know I'm very interested. I'm assuming I'm speaking for Ches that, you have a plan in place. You definitely have some objectives. You are no longer drifting through life. And I'm curious. I think we're both curious to see where it goes. So thank you for taking some time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
And thank you.
For those of you listeners out there, a few final requests before we part ways. First, if you're listening on the YouTube channel, make sure to check out the channel as a whole. There's a lot of other things besides these podcasts. There's live trade videos, quick tip videos. There's some fun random videos. So check out the channel and hopefully you decide to subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, be sure to subscribe. And especially on iTunes, if you leave us a ranking and a rating, that helps out quite a bit. And Ches and I would really appreciate that. And then finally, if you're listening to this on the website itself, click that share button and leave us a comment down in the section below. Ches and I do read those, and we will reply. So definitely check that stuff out. Thank you again to Ward. Thank you again to all of you as listeners. We will see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.